Miss Swazi, and this is the Roundtable. I'm joined again with some amazing people, and today I'm chopping it up with a different question involving 3 C's: class, culture, and colour. What does it mean to think about these things as a conversation and also to navigate through life? Check your person on your left. You have to tell me what you think their challenges are within those 3 categories: class, culture, and colour. Shady, I'll kick it off with you first.
Naturally, you know, certain roles and certain engagements with work, you might still feel challenged more in certain industry than others. I think you told me you're from
Jamaican and white.
Yeah, Caribbean, again, kind of just correlating with, you know, and being ambitious. I think you're going to be going into high-end salaries, that you're ambitious, you really want to strive, you study. So I think you're going to be going into societies where, you know, these big shareholders and the people that influence those job roles.
Cool, okay. Dom, what do you think your take is?
I think your challenges may be that often it's assumed that you come from a position of privilege when that might not always be necessarily the case, socially or economically. I think, you know, a challenge as a man might be that it's often seen as that you're a natural aggressor as a white male in today's society.
Yeah, nice. For Johnny then, who's on your left, what do you think his challenges may be?
If I remember correctly, that you're Jamaican. Perhaps that they say things in what they think is a Jamaican accent, or, you know, maybe they see something derogatory about the smoking weed, or maybe it's a woman who is walking towards you, a woman or a man walking towards you, and they cross the street. I mentioned that my friend's conversation about relationships with the police and figures of authority. I can imagine that being an obstacle.
I think it's such a healthy conversation to have, you know.
As soon as they hear your name, they now expect you to be Asian. And it's like, but you thought I was white like 2 minutes ago, you know? So I do feel like he probably struggles to navigate multiple ethnicities. And even though he self-identifies as one, just from what you said, I assume that your name, as soon as people hear your name, they now start placing assumptions on you, which are different.
You know, you made a good point, but it's not something which I'm actually offended by. Like, even with other people, I don't really see colour or anything as something different. It's mainly what other people's perception of it is. I think certainly, I mean, I don't have a problem with other colours, cultures, and if everybody, you know, didn't either, I think it would make the world a much better place if we could all just...
What do you think Rashida's challenges may be when it comes down to class, culture, and colour?
I think, man, I'm going to say probably... In fact, I think in terms of class, you seem sort of quite street-ish, if that sort of... Is that quite accurate? Oh, God. Oh.
Carry on.
Should we skip over that one?
No. I don't know what it would mean to say that I'm, like, what does...
Like, in terms of, like, sort of, do you know what I mean? Like, quite... you know, quite sort of working class-ish, would you say?
Well, it might surprise you to know that both my parents are actually university professors.
Oh, are they? Oh,
they
wow.
are. I would say that, like, my parents definitely come from a more working class environment than I do. I say I grew up in, like, the ends, but with a certain periphery in the sense that I was always aware of a certain privilege that I had. Like, my parents were teachers, and I've seen them, like, come up, like, in their social standing.
These challenges are probably going to get easier over time, I think, quite rapidly, but the issue of being the issues of being black and being a woman, I mean, a lot of, like, people have mentioned the issues and the challenges that, you know, sort of people of colour face. You know, for example, in film roles.
What do you think her challenge may be?
I think maybe in terms of, say, for example, maybe, you know, people's perception of, you know, what that might be. To be honest, it's something that I do keep hearing, but it's not something that I know firsthand. You know, and I don't want to be ignorant to anything that you feel as a challenge or anything that you know is challenging for you.
Yeah, sweet.
So
any of that resonating?
Yeah, no, I guess so. I guess so. There are challenges that I face that you probably, like you said, there are things that you haven't experienced, so you're not aware of. And obviously there's a gendered element of things.
Yes.
And you're from the north, I'm from the south, different experiences there, I guess.
Possibly,
so.
Can I say, I feel like, just, I really don't want to harp on the point about that. You see in the assumption of someone's thing right now, I feel like Rashida could have been offended when Phil said, oh, I feel like, because again, this is just conversation, obviously we're in a safe space talking, but I feel like for someone to say, oh, but I feel like things going to get better rapidly for you, it's like, yo, but you don't even know what I got through now. And again, to reference the thing about, as I said, musicians or people entertaining, black people entertaining, it's like, yo, fam, that's not even half of the issue.
Right.
But you think that that's okay. And I say, I convert that to say, I don't imagine that if I said, oh, but woman not a problem now.
This is why God is so important in this conversation, you know, like 1 out of 2 of the greatest commandments is loving your neighbor as you love yourself. And that couldn't be done except both of these understood each other, you know, because sis gave Phil the grace to just say, okay, she didn't take it in a negative way. But now this is an important conversation where I need to make sure your bro is educated enough so he can now communicate this to someone that isn't as understanding. And bro needs to be loving enough to say, I need to understand this in a way that it's not gonna offend sis. And then only in a perfect world when love is rule, you know, and it's in the center and everyone is putting themselves away from the focus and they're looking at how the other person sees it. That's when we're gonna look at these 3 C's like it's nothing, because...
Let me pause you right there. I'm going to go to Frankie as well and get your thoughts, Frankie, on Shady's experience. What do you think when it comes to class, culture and colour? She's already given the wink. What do you think his challenges may be?
Well, I guess, like, you're a black man in a time when it's not a great time to be a black man. Like, you know, obviously there's a lot of change going on, but we have so much institutionalised racism still, and that's an experience as a white woman I can never really understand. Like, I've never had to face any kind of discrimination because of the colour of my skin, which is, you know, something that, yeah, it's a completely different world, I guess. And yeah, I think it's like, we really want to blame people in this country. We like blaming people, we like othering people. And it's like a really horrible thing that is quite a trait in Britain.
Is that a conversation that when you're speaking to other friends who may be white and female or white and male, is that something that you take an ownership to sort of explain and express so that by the time Shady walks into that room, people are still knowledgeable because you've had the conversation, which probably would lessen the burden from Shady having the conversation?
As in, like, using my privilege to educate other people kind of thing?
Yeah, or is that a conversation that would just naturally, if someone was to say something, would you step in and say, oh, actually, no, that can't be, or this is why, or would you step into that?
This is what I try and do, and I think it's an important thing I do, especially as I'm a white woman, but I'm also a white woman from East London and a white woman from a place where it's an ethnic minority to be white British. And so I've always grown up being around people who are from all different cultures, and it's like you kind of, you know, a lot about all different cultures and kind of respect each other equally.
That's so good what Sis just said, you know, like she pulled it away from just being white, she pulled her area into it, East London. That's the conversation now where you can sympathise a bit more. And I think that was just important because people just look at just the surface of one thing and then say, oh, I don't know how to speak. But like, just like police officers, which is a huge challenge for black people, my method, look at them like a father, look at like them as a mother, they got kids themselves. There's so many other factors that roll in, so, and that's how you tie in the conversation. So yeah, it's even attracted to even strive to overcome some of the emotions, you know. I remember being stopped and searched for having a glove on, you know, and it was cold, and it was just like, those kind of things, if I stay on that, what's the harm? All it did for me, it just expanded me to no longer just look at it in my perspective, but the whole world's perspective, you know. I'm kind of doing all right with my life now, so police, even in the areas, the things I do, I don't need to worry about police no more, but I still worry about my little brother. I still worry about my friends that are still in those environments. The things I do to even talk to that police officer is gonna shift their perspective for the next time they say, oh, maybe my man just, I'm like, hello officer, I say hello to every officer. I'm doing it, car. I don't want him to end up in the news because you wrongfully treated someone wrong. I don't want my bro to get locked up being wrongfully charged for something. I'm thinking about it all, you know. And
just to throw it onto this side, Dom, I know you spoke a lot about politics as well. If it isn't faith that transcends these 3 categories, what would it be for you? Would it be politics?
The struggle isn't an inherently black thing, and I think that, you know, people have different perspectives. They might look a certain way, but they come from different perspectives wherever they come from. For me personally, as a mixed woman who is right-wing, I often get judged solely on the basis of my colour, as if that should form the basis of my political opinions. And what I really want to say about that is, like kind of what you said about viewing people on an individual human level rather than what characteristics that they have, that's what will improve society. So for me, my individuality and who I am as a person transcends my colour, you know, class and culture, although they are important facets of my identity.
I think politics actually specifically doesn't transcend them, because I'm also a political activist, but a bit further to the left. Politics is so wrapped up in all these kind of historic privileges still. Like, you're still much more likely to be heard if you're a male, if you're middle to upper class. Like, as a working class woman and a political activist, it's a very odd space to fill, especially as a young woman. Like, I think politics is one of the things that really needs to be impacted by the kind of the 3 Cs in order for us to have any kind of progress. When we have people in the House of Commons who are actually speaking up for people of colour, for women, for young people, for working class people, that's when we can actually start to make change and start to
I mean, that is happening though. The problem that I have with left-wing people, like you, I'm assuming you're quite left-wing.
But that, again, that's
the problem. I know, but the view, like the things that you've said indicate to me where you are on the spectrum. I don't want to assume, but would you say that you are?
Probably more so.
Okay, so that was the correct assumption. The problem that I have with you guys is that you often view things just so negatively all of the time.
But you're saying you don't want to make assumptions about groups of people, but you're assuming that groups of people who would consider themselves left.
From what I've observed from left-wing people, you're just very negative about things all of the time. We have women dominating. No, sorry, just let me say this. We have women dominating politics right now. We have female leaders of whole countries right now. We have, you know, more female CEOs. Men are more likely to go to prison, more likely to be homeless. Women have higher life expectancy than men. Men are more likely to commit suicide. Women are more likely to receive cancer funding than men. Women are favoured in child support cases, so the woman is often assumed to get custody of the child. There are many things that we have as individuals. We all have privileges, we all have things that we face that we might deem as oppressive. The fact that I was in Philadelphia, for example, you know, we talk about police brutality and I can get into that, but do you know how many black police officers I saw? This idea that everything is so bad, dark and oppressive, it's just not founded in factual reality.
I don't think people are necessarily. I don't think that's what people are saying. And having brown skin might have not. You can say that it might not have affected you.
It has affected me in some ways. I've experienced some people being racist towards me. I've experienced some people making stupid comments towards me. I go to the University of York, which is a predominantly white university. When I was at home, I didn't really have any white friends, and then so going to university, it was a really massive change for me being in such a different environment.
So the point is that race is real and it affects people in different ways.
I'm not saying that's not real, but what that actually did for me was it allowed me to see things from a different perspective.
So can I just say a few things on that? I feel like focusing on the individual is exactly the issue. And I feel like there's some irony in saying that you think you should focus on the individual, but the first thing you actually said, but the thing about you people, that's the first thing you said, you people. You group the whole, you never even know such a left wing, but you just dash her in the box and say you people. After you were corrected, you say, okay, my assumption, but the reality is that as humans, mirror neurons, we identify, we assume. A baby, we learn by assuming. You do something wrong, your mother shouts at you, you assume that it is wrong, so you no longer do that.
I will say, you know, sometimes collectivism does work. You know, obviously we're stronger together in terms of, say, the civil rights movement. That was a mass movement that really galvanized change. But I think the problem with collectivism is when it groups people together and assumes they all think the same, should act the same, and have the same opinions because they fit into this block, when in reality it doesn't happen.
I think the point that is more being made is that whatever we do, there's a certain system that perceives us and treats us legally, socially, politically a particular way. Whether you're right wing, whether you're left wing or not, there's a certain interaction that you're going to have with the world. And whether you like it or not, that's the reality. The same way you said you went to York and you were perceived, your life would not look the same if your skin was the same colour as Frankie's. That's just the reality of it. And there's nothing that you can do as an individual to make the world treat you differently.
What do you guys love most about your colour, your class, and your culture? And I'm going to go first to Phil.
Well, thank you very much. What I love most about my culture, well, I consider myself, I mean, I am mixed race. I'm half Chinese, but I've been brought up really sort of as white British, really. So for me, what I love probably most about my culture is probably the whole sort of, our freedom to do whatever we please. We can, obviously our right to free speech, our right, to travel and things like that. So that's probably what I love most. I never sort of really got into the culture, like my sort of Chinese culture, really. It's not something that, I really was ever really connected to.
The creative expression, I feel like in Jamaica, like, 2 million people, but everybody know Bob Marley, everybody know ska, everybody know dancehall. So like 2 million people made 3 different genres that are global, you know what I'm saying? And that's not even limited to just like music, but even just general conversation, like how expressive we are. And yeah, I feel like the kind of unlimited creativity that we have in anything that we're doing is, that's what I love.
I went to secondary school in Wandsworth. I was blessed to meet a wide variety of cultured friends. In my second and third year, I lived with 2 Ghanaians, 1 Nigerian, and someone from Guyana. And it really, 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 if you're talking about a moment where I felt white, it was in these moments. Because we'd be chilling, and we'd be talking about race, or they'd be talking about race. And I learned that as a white man, I have very little participation in these conversations, and it was a learning experience to learn how to sit down and listen, because their experiences and their how they navigate the world was so different from mine. The one that struck me was how they interacted with the police. From a young age, I had always been able to go up to the police and talk to the police, but my friends were talking about how they'd be walking to a barbecue in shorts and t-shirts and just get stopped and searched. And so that's how I mean is that I can't really sort of talk to them about that because I can't comprehend.
Talk to them about it. You can share your perspective as well.
It's actually for me as well, the town where I actually grew up in, it was sort of probably about 30 miles from Newcastle, but I think it has a population of 96% of white British. I was sort of, even though I did identify really as British, I was almost sort of seen as like an ethnic minority.
But do you not identify as someone who is ethnic minority?
It's, to be honest, not really, because it's never really played a big part in my life, really.
I feel like lends itself to what you were saying, Dom, earlier about Simon being involved in our conversation. I feel like as much as he should be involved in our conversation, there's a certain place that people should have or should understand themselves within certain conversations. So for example, a conversation about women, I may well and be in the conversation, but I'm not gonna really try to tell you, because it's not really my place to kind of say, you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna, for sure.
No, this is why I disagree, because the whole point of finding common ground is hearing opinions that you might not agree with.
People's experiences have always been racialized. Women's lives have always been different. My life is different from Luke's because we live in 2 different bodies. The world treats women differently to how the world treats men. The world treats white people differently to how it treats black people. And I think our experiences, how we navigate the world is not the same. And I think we should be able to have conversations that highlight those things. But at the same time, I don't think people who are on the privileged end of those conversations should be dominating them, because that does nothing for highlighting the experience.
And that's all we have time for, I'm afraid, but it's been a fantastic conversation. We've been discussing the 3 C's, class, culture, and colour. And you need to get involved. We're having real conversation. This is all about the round table. Make sure you tune in again.